Don in Japanese is short for donburi, which means bowl. In Japanese cuisine, it is a rice bowl dish that's covered with meat, fish, or vegetables that's simmered in a flavorful, delicious sauce. A staple of everyday Japanese meals, if you've ever been to Japan and visited a 7-Eleven or these type of establishments, you know that these dishes are budget-friendly, quick, simple, yet satisfying. So when I was going through my Street Fighter cookbook, I saw that Sakura had an Oyakodon recipe to her name, the chicken and the egg. I wanted to put this to the test against my beef gyudon and pork butadon versions for this Japanese rice bowl showdown. Can Sakura's chicken and egg rice bowl rise to the challenge and dish out a win against our rice bowls? There's only one way to find out. Let's get ready for the next battle. First, let's make butadon, literally translated as pork bowl. It's a dish that originated from northern Japan in Hokkaido. For this rice bowl dish, I'm going to make a simple version that's good for 2 servings, one that you can start off as a basic foundation and build from there with additional toppings and techniques. I'm going to thinly slice half a large onion in addition to 1 green onion. For the pork, we're using thinly sliced pork, about half a pound. I'm using pork shoulder, which has some nice marbling, and you can find thinly sliced meats at your local Asian grocery store, which is usually bought to make hot pot at home. If you have access to a local butcher, they can also do this for you. I'm going for simplicity and speed here, but if you have time, you can buy a pork cut yourself, freeze it for a few hours, then slice it as thin as you can with a knife. I'm using a non-stick pan here on medium heat to heat up our rich Japanese broth. We'll combine a half cup of dashi stock, otherwise known as fish broth. I'm using a powdered version here called hondashi, mixed with hot water to instantly create a fish-based dashi stock. If you love Japanese cuisine, this is a staple item in your pantry. You can definitely make homemade dashi, but again, time is money here. We'll add a 1/4 cup of sake, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and 2 teaspoons of sugar. Then we'll add in the onions and let them cook until they are nice and soft, about 5 minutes or so. Make sure the onions are all separated and stir occasionally. Next, add in the pork. This pork will cook very quickly given how thinly sliced it is, but let it cook in the broth for about 4 to 5 minutes. One of the things that make these rice bowl dishes so delicious is that the onions and pork are simmering and absorbing that rich flavored broth, which is also being reduced to a sauce that will coat over our rice, creating flavor in every bite. Grab a bowl of rice, place the pork, onions, and some sauce over the rice. Add some green onions on top for garnish, and this is ready to be devoured. If you appreciate the simplicity of this Japanese pork rice bowl, hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit my goal of 500 subscribers, so every bit counts and your support is always appreciated. Okay, let's level up our game with our gyudon recipe. This beef rice bowl is arguably the most well-known and popular of Japanese donburi dishes, given its comfort food status and widespread availability. So similar to our butadon, the onions and green onions are prepared the same way. I'm using a stainless steel skillet here just to show that you can use whatever pans you have available. The Japanese broth is also similar, but we are going to make one adjustment. Instead of using white sugar, we're going to use 2 tablespoons of mirin. Mirin is a Japanese sweet rice wine. While both mirin and sugar add sweetness to the broth, mirin provides additional depth to our dish with umami flavors and texture with a glossy caramelized finish to our beef and onions. Cook the onions in the broth for 5 minutes, then add in the beef. I'm using a half pound of beef chuck blade, also thinly sliced, that's great for hot pot at home. Let the beef and onions simmer for another 4 to 5 minutes. Grab a bowl of rice, then place the meat, onions, and some sauce over the rice. Add a runny poached egg, a bunch of green onions in the center, and beni-shoga, a red pickled ginger for tanginess, slight spiciness, and vibrant color. It's a great balance to the fatty beef and sweetness from the sauce. And would you look at that, this is ready to serve. And since we're fancying up with these pretty toppings and rich creamy egg, this is a good choice for a date night to impress someone. Scarlett Johansson agrees, and this person as well. If you like the look of this gyudon, be sure to like and share this recipe with your friends, and maybe your date if it went well. Before we get into her Oyakodon, let's take a moment to talk about Sakura Kasugano, the spirited fighter from Japan who burst onto the Street Fighter scene as the energetic schoolgirl chasing her hero Ryu. Sakura quickly became a fan favorite thanks to her iconic Japanese school uniform, red headband, and boundless enthusiasm. Her self-taught fighting style mirrors Ryu's, though it's not as refined. Her moves are quicker, flashier, and full of raw spirit. When she first appeared, Sakura was all youthful energy and wide-eyed admiration, driven by a dream to one day stand as Ryu's equal. But as time goes on, we see that Sakura is no longer that same schoolgirl. She's grown up, out of school and working part-time at an arcade. She's starting to ask the bigger questions. What comes next? Is there more to life than just fighting? Should I settle down or keep chasing my dream? She's at a crossroads, torn between playing it safe and continuing to pursue something uncertain but deeply meaningful. And honestly, that hits close to home. It reminds me of my own journey with this cooking channel. It's something I wanted to do for a while, but I've had doubts. What if it doesn't work out? But when I think of Sakura and her willingness to keep pushing forward, even when the path isn't clear, it's inspiring and a fight worth taking on. Now let's make Sakura's Oyakodon. This recipe creates 4 servings, so this is perfect for a family meal. In terms of vegetables and garnish, I have thinly sliced a medium-sized onion, sliced 2 green onions, separating the white and green parts, and shredded some nori, also known as seaweed. For our chicken, I diced 1 to 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I froze the thighs in the freezer for a few hours to help make the cutting easier. Given the larger portion size, I'm going to use a larger non-stick pan. On medium heat, let's warm up the Japanese broth. The recipe calls to combine the following: a half cup of dashi stock, 1 tablespoon of sake, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of mirin, and 2 teaspoons of sugar. So less sake is used and we're combining mirin and sugar here. I wonder if this will be sweeter than our pork and beef versions. Let's add in the onions and let them cook until they are nice and soft, about 5 minutes or so. Make sure the onions are all separated and stir occasionally. Next, add in the chicken. Let the chicken cook for about 6 to 8 minutes. It's a little longer compared to the pork and beef as we want to ensure the chicken is cooked through. Reduce the heat to low and add the white part of the green onions. You can also season with some salt, pepper, and sugar here to your taste. In another bowl, lightly scramble 2 to 4 eggs. Try to leave some of the egg white visible. Carefully stream the eggs into the pan. Cook the eggs until they are just set, but slightly runny. The name Oyako literally means parent and child, representing the bond between the chicken as the parent and the egg as the child. In the end of her story in Street Fighter V, Sakura briefly mentions motherhood as a form of strength. So I'm very curious to know if the author used this dish to symbolize that ending. And if that's the case, that's really cool and demonstrates a lot of care that went into this cookbook. Grab a bowl of rice, place the chicken and egg, onions, and some sauce over the rice. Top with green onions, the shredded nori seaweed strips, and Togarashi, which is a grounded chili pepper. This is now ready to serve. Now it's time for the taste test. So some initial thoughts and predictions. The broth composition is fairly similar between each other. They use the same amount of dashi stock. The soy sauce is the same. There's slight variations between the amount of sake that's used, whether mirin is used, and also white sugar as well. I'm curious to see if there's a difference between the Butadon, which has no mirin, versus the Oyakodon, which has both mirin and sugar to it as well. So I predict it might be a bit sweeter than the others. The onions and the meats in this dish should taste great as they've both been simmering in the broth for quite some time. So it's been absorbing a lot of that sauce that will add a lot of sweetness and depth to these dishes. It'll be interesting to see what the toppings like the beni-shoga, the eggs, the nori, and the green onions can add to this dish as well. All right, so let's get started with the Butadon, pork donburi. Bon appetit. This is the most basic of the donburis I've made, but the onions and the pork, they taste excellent just from the broth. Sweet and savory, and the rice has absorbed all that broth, so it tastes great as well. So the green onions add a little bit of freshness and balance in contrast to the meat. This is pretty good. Can't wait to see what's next. All right, let's try the gyudon. Similar to the Butadon, the onions and the beef, they taste great. I really like the runny egg here, adds a lot of creaminess to this dish. The green onions adds a freshness as well. I want to try the beni-shoga. Oh yeah. The beni-shoga or the pickled ginger adds a real sharp acidity, tanginess to this meal. I think combining it with the rice and the beef all together, you get all different types of flavors. It just adds another layer to this meal, and it's really good. Very beefy, and the rice absorbed all that sauce as well, similar to the pork don, which is expected. So yeah, the pickled ginger and the runny egg really adds another layer to this, so I really like this as well. All right, now the Oyakodon. I really like the eggs here. It's soft, it's custardy, almost silky, and given how the eggs are cooked, it's all over the rice and it's enveloped into everything, which is really nice. You kind of get the egg in every bite. The chicken is nice and tender, absorbing all that sauce, similar to the onions as well. The Togarashi is quite spicy. It adds a bit of a kick. I noticed that I think this recipe actually calls for Ichimi Togarashi, and the one that I bought was actually called Shichimi Togarashi, which actually is chilies that has blended with other aromatics as well. And when I look at the ingredients tab, I see how it has orange peel, black sesame seed, white sesame seed, there's Japanese pepper, there's ginger and seaweed as well. So there's quite a few more ingredients in this one compared to the Ichimi Togarashi, which is just the chilies. That's just something to be aware of, but I find this to be not too bad. I like the different aromatics and ingredients in this as well. I like that the shredded nori and the green onions, they both add a crunch, they add a little crispness and color and brightness to this dish as well. Oh yeah, it's good. All right, so what's the final verdict? Whose cuisine reigns supreme? Honestly, I think all of them are great. It really just depends on what type of protein you're craving, or in reality, what you have in your kitchen. So as far as the broth composition goes, the dashi stock is great. I highly recommend the mirin if you're able to have that. I find that it adds a different element of sweetness as opposed to just adding white sugar. Obviously, if you don't have mirin, sugar will definitely help in that department. I would say if you already have mirin, adding sugar is an optional thing that you can do. And if possible, either having a runny poached or scrambled egg will really help elevate any of these dishes. And if you have time, adding the beni-shoga, the togarashi, the shredded nori, or the green onions, you know, they add different elements to these dishes and also presentation points to your meal as well. But I would say they're optional if you're really in a pinch to make something quickly. But overall, everyone is a winner here as far as I'm concerned. And there you have it. 3 different takes on donburi rice bowls. Which one do you prefer? Sakura's Oyakodon or my version of Gyudon or Butadon? I think the Street Fighter cookbook is a cool way to explore cuisines of different countries and cultures. Bonus if there are characters you really like. It's a fun way to connect with Street Fighter culture. It also gives an opportunity for you to try something different, see another take on a dish you make, which you can adopt or get a different perspective on. So when it comes to Japanese rice bowls, I think my preferred broth mix will utilize less sake, and use mirin for depth and sweetness instead of sugar. Runny poached eggs are top tier, and I really taken a liking to the beni-shoga and Togarashi for the sharp contrast and small kick that it provides to the meal. A small note here, with the gyudon, I forgot to add sesame seeds for garnish, which would have added a nutty and toasty texture. And with the Oyakodon, after pouring in the eggs, I should have covered the lid so the egg cooks more evenly. With the Butadon, there is another version that's famous in Obihiro, a city in the Hokkaido region, where the pork is grilled rather than simmered. We can try that another time. Like this video if you enjoyed the battle, and subscribe for more character-themed recipes, cooking battles, and tasty recipes. Want me to cook something from another video game or character? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. Big thanks to everyone if you made it this far. Want to support me directly? Check out my Patreon, links in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care everyone.